Boys, another podcast ready to go.
Brothers, how are we?
Um, I'm excited, man. Obviously, peak week for one of the biggest shows of the state, and a lot of other states are having their shows this weekend too. I know New South Wales is too. I'm pretty sure WA is, and they're all going to do massive shows. So, really, really keen for this week and for this weekend, and also to see all the results from all the shows and all the winners, because I'm sure they're all going to be going to nationals, and nationals is going to be a massive event too. So, I'm talking about ICN when I talk about this. And all the other states and all the other federations also have their shows coming up too. I know IPB VICS is this weekend on the Sunday, which is exciting. And then then we're starting to move into some nationals, man, for all those federations. The NBA's coming up, IPB, AMB. So we're getting to the tail end of season B, and this is all the exciting stuff because we've had the smaller shows, the regional shows, but now is where we could say the big guns come out, and we start to see the some top level athletes, which I'm really, really excited. We actually had some questions about the show this weekend, but one little one that someone just asked, I thought I'd just chuck it in right at the start, is how often do us guys actually catch up? So we obviously catch up every week on the podcast, and we talk nearly every single day in our little group chat, but physically catch up probably a little bit more recently with some training sessions, and I've been going into Scotty's gym for him to take a look at me to see how I'm looking and give me some advice. And obviously I go see MG Michael, sometimes do some training sessions with him, but we haven't actually socially caught up, hey, have we, boys?
No, it's always training or comp prep related. The time will come, no doubt. We've got a few things to put in that once comp season's over, we absolutely will. But just all of us have just been hustling lately, and I think everyone that listens knows, we're all pretty big supporters of each other. Even though we do the same thing, we're in the same field. We're always there for each other, got each other's backs. We bounce things off each other all the time. Even athletes and how hard we push our athletes and stuff. So it's always good to have a friendship circle of people that you trust and respect. And obviously, me and Scott at the moment are just super amped for Trimboli, and we're living through him, aren't we, man? We're like,
yeah, we are, and that's the other thing as well. Obviously, knowing what it's like to be in his shoes in the trenches, catching up socially, like going out to get a bite to eat or whatever, it's not really like, what's the point of doing that when only, two of us are going to be able to eat? It's better we're doing something that aligns with all of our, I guess, where we're at with everything, but more so to try and support him so that he can get the most out of this season and to help push him to beat his best, because essentially that's what happens if MG was competing. That's what happened if I'm competing. You want to make sure that you're rinsing every little bit out of the sponge, which I know 100% that he is, and everyone will get to see that firsthand on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, definitely.
The other thing is, out of the three of us, none of us are really crazy food motivated anyway. We're not massive foodies or got to have burgers, got to have this. We're not really that. So I think even we say that, but post comp season, we're probably going to do the same shit anyway.
Yeah, we
catch up, train, and bring your own food anyway. So
pretty much it. That's right.
I think after comps are done and we catch up socially, we'll probably go to the gym anyways. Maybe just go get a coffee later or something.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. The next one was, I saw you at Ballarat but didn't say hi. I was too shy. So don't be shy, guys. Come and say hello. There's a lot of people that actually came said hello to me at Ballarat, and I know to MG also. And Scotty, you were at a powerlifting meet. I know you interacted with some of the listeners too there. So
yeah.
I know we have our game face on at show day because we're coaching people and we're kind of rushing around and not really making much eye contact. But if you see us, say hi. We love talking to you guys and make sure that we say hello. So yeah, if you're there to see us.
I get super stressed when one of my athletes are on stage, just because obviously it means as much to me as it does to them, and I'm super vested, as we all are. So yeah, apologies if my face seemed like you couldn't come up to me. I was probably just I get quite nervous, but yeah, love to meet and chat to absolutely anyone.
I'm excited for this Saturday. I know it's my show and all of us have a lot of athletes there too. But come and say hello. If you see me, don't think you're disturbing me. I'm more than happy to have a chat with everyone. So definitely come and say hello. All three of us are going to be there. So yeah, definitely come say hello.
Yeah.
For this weekend, we actually had a couple of questions about our thoughts about the ICN timetable. because it did get released, and the show starts at 9 and finishes at 10 p.m. at night, which is a big day, especially for, I don't want to throw myself under the bus, but especially for someone like myself, where I've got to get up around about 4:30, have a meal, and then eventually step on stage at around about 10 a.m. And then I have a client that's in the last open division for bikini, so potentially finishing at 10 p.m. I don't mind it. Like, it's what I love to do. It's what we love to do. We're obviously going to take a breather during the day. We're going to go outside. We're going to try to catch some air. We're going to make sure that we eat our food and things like that, look after ourselves. But, you know, I love it. I love being there. I love seeing the excitement on everyone's face. I love seeing the success that everyone is having and just being around everyone. So, yeah, it's a long day, but I probably prefer it to be all done and dusted in one day. So the next day we can take it easy. We can sleep in. We can rest, recover, and enjoy our Sunday. How about you boys? How do you feel about it?
Scotty, you want me to go?
Oh, okay. I was waiting for you to go. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. We were just talking about it off air before. I would prefer to have, as I just said, one monster day than have two really big days. So to have to go back and do it all again the next day. But like what you said, I love the hustle and bustle that I've got 8 people competing on the Saturday. So it's pretty much going to be go from whatever it is, 9:30 up until I think my last one's meant to be finishing by 6, but I anticipate it'll run behind. So it'll be, I think sports will be done by probably around about 8:30 if we're lucky. So it'll be a long day, but there's only one VICS per year. It's always a big show. So I'm looking forward to it. And especially to see, I know that there's going to be a really high caliber of athletes across all the divisions, even, you know, looking in the bodybuilding, you know, there's big lineups there. So I think the standard's going to be really, really good. And it'll be good for everyone to stand up against the best in the state and see where they land. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like, at the end of the day, whatever time you're on, you know, your coach will be able to reverse engineer the plan based on when you're on as to how many meals you need to have. So, your coach should be all over that in terms of what you need to do for the day. If you're on at 10 o'clock, it doesn't make it worse. It's not like the end of the world. It just needs a little bit more planning. So, and I think the only sort of, you know, I haven't had not a lot of negativity around it. I think I've had a couple of comments from actually athletes who I don't coach who messaged me on socials, just maybe a little disheartened that they can't bring their kids now because their division is so late and they're in the mums division, which, look, I get that. That's probably the only downside I can see about the whole thing. Personally, I'm like the boys as well. I like to smash it out in one day. Don't want to be coming back a second day. The vibe is insane when it's like that. It's just go all day. It's an awesome atmosphere. The crowds are big. It feels good to compete. It feels good to coach as well. So probably the only downside is the inability for some people to bring their children because it's late, and it's just not a lot you can do, unfortunately.
Yeah, you touched on something there, and we actually got a question about it. Is now that the day has been pushed out, how do you adjust people's peaks? And also, someone asked, "What do you eat on the day?" Because my coach hasn't told me. So I don't know, Scotty. Do you want to touch on it a little bit? Maybe you want to start off with how do you adjust someone's peak if you know they're going to be on it. Now they're going to be on 3 hours later, and it's going to be maybe in the afternoon compared to being at midday. And what would you normally advise people to bring to eat if their coach hasn't told them anything?
Well, I guess starting with what to bring and what to eat. So typically, I think it's important to have dialogue with your athletes as a coach early in the week. So, for example, all of my guys and girls have already received they have a list of foods and even just miscellaneous things like baby wipes, get rid of the tan, towel to stand on, anything and everything, a straw to drink out of that you could possibly think of. It's basically like a checklist. So you can start to get those things ready. Now, in terms of show day nutrition, I have mapped out what everyone's going to be having based on a time that we've been given thus far, but that will likely change based on the finalised times that we get from Tony, which will probably be, we normally get them a little bit earlier, hopefully by tomorrow afternoon, once registration's closed. But even then, I tend to build in, I guess, about a 90-minute window either side. So typically, depending when you're going to be on, if you're in the morning, they're probably going to be less likely to be behind than, say, if you're in bikini or sports at the end of the day. But if your athletes pretty much ready to rock from the first thing in the morning, which everyone essentially should be. All you're doing, so basically you want to wake up and have a look that, yep, this is where we want to be. And it's about just holding that look. There's really nothing drastic. So that if you're not on till 8 o'clock at night, it doesn't make sense to obviously get up at 4 in the morning and start getting meals in. I don't have any bikini girls, but I would say sleep in, take your time. The only thing with those guys is they normally have to get there a bit earlier for their hair and makeup and tanning. But you just, as we were just saying, you just reverse it. So you typically have, like, let's say classics on at 10, wake up time is going to be 4:30, light meal at about 5 o'clock, maybe a coffee and some water. And then you're probably going to have your main meal around about 6 to 6:30. And then from there, they're just small meals where you're essentially just pushing in enough carbohydrate or enough, a little bit of fats to help slow that down so that you can just hold your look. So everything is there. And then when you decide to pump on, you're essentially just flicking the switch down, and then it's like all systems go. So if your week's being managed and periodized accordingly, it shouldn't really be that much of an issue, provided that everything is in place. And you should always have a running sheet. So if your coach hasn't given you a rundown on show day, for example, what time to wake up, when to pump up, when to send photos, when to have each meal, how much water to have with each meal, when your cutoff point is for that water, so you don't have any stomach distension or water bellies, etc., then they're all questions that you would definitely want to ask, because they're things that your coach should be providing for you. But in terms of the finalized plan, that typically wouldn't come through until probably Friday once everything is finalized. And again, it's always going to be subject to change based on timings being pushed back. But as long as those basic foundations, so that staple meal that goes in earlier is in, if let's say that you've got a plan that you've got a meal that needs to go in 75 minutes before you're meant to be on stage, and you just find out that they're half an hour behind, then that's okay. So maybe you'll just have a rice cake or 2 rice cakes to just hold that. But even then, you probably don't need to, because you should be lying down with your feet up. You just push that meal back by half an hour and then adjust it. Now, if we're talking 2 or 3 hours, then you want to have a meal that's ready that you can push in. And again, I'll always have my athletes bring what we refer to as a safety or recovery meal. So let's say that something happens and it gets pushed out by 2 hours, and you don't just want to sit on rice cakes. It might be, a little bit of rice with a little bit of protein or something like that, purely to just hold you and to keep hunger at bay. Or you could just snack on some rice cakes and just have some protein powder via isolate or something like that. So it's really not that hard, provided obviously that you've got everything mapped out. We're just pushing it back or bringing it forward as we need to. But for those that are on later at night, my advice would be, don't overthink it. If you're meant to be on at 5 and now it's going to be 9:30, that's fine. Essentially, it's actually easier to pick someone later in the day, because firstly, you can get more food in, or if something happens and they wake up perhaps I don't know, for whatever reason, they look a little bit spilled or whatever, you can correct that if you have a window of time to be able to do so. But if you wake up at 5 o'clock and you're on at 10 and you're not happy with what you see, it's a lot harder to obviously to try and correct that in a short window of time. So essentially, just make sure that you organise, everything's planned, and you should have dialogue with your coach. You should be checking in, touching base, daily. Same with all of your photos and whatnot. Well, at least that's how I do things, so that we can make sure that we're, again, adjusting on the fly. You have to auto-regulate, because your physique in peak week is a moving target. It's not just like, this is what you do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I'll catch up with you on Saturday. Yeah. Because the look changes. You might start pushing carbohydrate in. I had an athlete this morning. We woke up to a new all-time low, and we start pushing in more food today. And originally we were going to be a little bit more conservative today, but based on where we're at, we need to push in more today. So straight away I have to adjust that on the fly, and that gets sent out, and then bang, they make those adjustments so that we know. Whereas if I don't obviously check in on that athlete, and then by tomorrow they wake up and they're flatter than we would hope them to be, then obviously it's too late to try and fix that, because you didn't attend to it in the here and now.
Yeah, I think we all kind of work the same. Is in peak week, we're checking on our athletes on a daily basis, photos, getting data off them, and adjusting the plan. We have obviously a going in position, but that gets adjusted on a daily basis if need be. And then, for show day, I pretty much done it all this morning, is updated everyone's show day nutrition, because all the new times that came out last night. And, I have majority bikini athletes. I've got one fitness, which is on in around about 4 o'clock, but the rest of them are on 7:30 till 10. So, essentially for them, I've set what their meal should be. So, what they should be having for breakfast, what there would be a snack or a lunch, and set their calories and macros for each of those meals, and given them food recommendations on what I think they should be eating for those meals, low fiber, blah, 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 to make sure that we don't get any kind of digestive issues and things like that. And it's all planned out. It's like, I would have this at this time for breakfast, this time for lunch, this time, this many hours out to have that snack, this many hours or minutes out to have the next snack or the pump up snack, whatever that may be. So all that is planned out for every single athlete up until show day and for show day. So yeah, your coach should definitely have a plan in place, and you should know what food you should be eating, the amounts of food you should be eating, and obviously on the day, hopefully if they're there, that's great. They can monitor you and give you adjustments. If they're not, then they're probably asking for some photos or some videos along the way to check your physique. But yeah, that's all it is. It's, as I said, just reverse engineering it. If the times change, we change our approach. We maybe change our food amounts, our volume, or the food timing, and we go by there. Like, let's be honest. It only changed by about 2 hours, I think. The show was supposed to finish at 8, now it finishes at 10. And a lot of the divisions in the morning haven't really been affected by time. Even my fitness girl, I think she's on now half an hour later than what she was expected. So, but the bikini girls are on about an hour and a half, 2 hours later. So, it depends where you're at. Will depend on actually how much things may have changed from your original plan.
Yep.
What do you think, MG?
Yeah, I'll use like if I use Elise as an example, whose first division's nearly 9 o'clock. So what we did this morning is we sat down and we basically mapped out the whole day. So like as Scotty said, wake up time, meal one, which I basically picked the grammages and the types of food. So probably the biggest meal, and then about a 3 hour gap, a second meal, which is a little bit smaller, and then meal 3 and 4, which actually start to taper down in size as we get closer. With water put in for how much. Again, Scott explained why, just to make sure that we don't have a full water belly, but everything is breakdown in that. Now, hair and makeup will fit in around those times, and again, they may need to be changed and manipulated as we get closer to Saturday because hair and makeup times change. But like in essence, we're waking up at about 9:30. We're going to try and sleep in as much as we can because we're not on till so late at night. We're going to have a meal pretty much within half an hour of waking up. We'll do a little pump up, send some photos. And then it's pretty much just chill, man. We're eating 4 sort of mainish meals with the potential for some snacks, which we've asked to bring, with the last one being around 6 p.m. for like an 8:40 first time. So, yeah, it's. I would say that if you're not expecting any communication from your coach and you're on late at night for this show and you're not expecting a plan of what you should do, that's probably a bit of a reason for concern or alarm bell. Because what are you supposed to do? Just guess what to eat on the day, or how much you should intake, or how much water you should be having, or you also don't want to be starving all day long too, right? That's not a good headspace to be in on comp day.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but yeah, definitely not a problem, but just need some management.
Talking about food on the day, we had this funny question, which I think we've had before, but let's just get onto it again. Is we spoke about the shot of vodka on show day, or the night before show, or whatever that may be. And this person says, I'm confused because I'm still seeing a lot of people do it. Scotty, what's the science with injecting vodka on the show or the night before the show?
I don't know, man. I haven't really seen it in a while, not for probably 3 or 4 years. So if it's still going on, perhaps it's probably a little bit more prevalent in maybe IFBB and some of those untested federations. But it all stems from back in the day, Ronnie Coleman. Everyone knows him as being this elite bodybuilder, but he actually, when he first started out, he was super strung out, really stressy, and he actually did really, really bad. And I remember watching in this documentary, and he got to this show. It escapes me what the actual show was, but he was just so wound up, and he's like, if I place badly in this show, I'm just going to give up. I don't want to do this anymore. And one of the other guys he was competing with just said, man, come into my room, relax, have some vodka, have a pizza, whatever. So anyway, This is a guy who never.
Was it Flex? I think it might have been Flex.
It was Kevin Levrone.
It was Kevin Levrone. It was, yeah, it was
Yes.
Kevin Levrone.
It was
Yeah,
Big Kev. That's right, Big Kev. So he's like, man, come in, relax. Anyway, he had like half a bottle of vodka, smashed a pizza.
The whole pizza.
When he walked out, was so relaxed. And he woke up the next day and just looked like a freak of nature and came out and just wiped the floor with everyone. This is the guy that'd been placing 15th and then just came out and took the overall. So from there, who knows? I mean, when those guys are using that amount of pharmacology, could have been holding water. A lot of it could have been stress. The sodium in the pizza definitely would have helped with obviously increasing blood volume and blood pressure.
And I think at that point he was having like virtually zero carbs, right? Like,
yes.
So
he was being starved. So it was basically, he just gave his body all these things that it needed. And so I'm not entirely convinced that it was the alcohol that did it. That might have helped perhaps hydrate him and lose a little bit of water. But I tend to more think that even that, it would have been the sodium in the pizza and then the fats and just the simple carbohydrates and basically just all of that being absorbed and partitioned. And obviously he was just sucked down so low that it just brought him back to life. And so that tended to be his peaking approach. But then no one really knows exactly what his pharmacology protocol was either. You don't know what he was injecting that wasn't pizza or vodka. But as natural athletes, taking alcohol via wine or vodka, spirits, it's not going to improve your look. A dehydrated muscle belly will not look full. It will not look striated. Because again, we've covered this regarding to fluid balance. If your body senses that it's dehydrating, then it will counter that. Your kidneys are extremely intuitive. So they regulate things on a minute-by-minute basis. So if you start to dehydrate, and we know that we store, around 75% of the fluid inside a muscle is water, then obviously as a result of that, it's going to take water where you have it and it's going to stick it in an area where you don't, and it's only going to make you look worse than what you would have. So don't dehydrate. I wouldn't have a pizza the night before. I've seen some people before they go on have a slice of pizza, pardon me, and that could potentially be advantageous, but you're also running the risk of GI distress if you haven't had that. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be on stage and then getting the grumbles and you're worried if you're going to shit yourself when you hit a redouble bite.
But can we also agree that slice of pizza could be advantageous, but only if you're at the type of composition like a Michael Trimboli sits at right now?
For sure. And even then, I would argue that he hasn't eaten pizza for how long. And I know having, after a prep, once celebrating on my final show of the season with a pizza, and I was really, really sick after life.
If I ate pizza, it would wreck me. Just like the gluten and the lactose in it would wreck me. I know it would.
Yeah. So it's, for the sake of it, why wouldn't you just, pizza's not a magical food, but it's got fats, it's got sodium. So then why wouldn't you just inject some sodium via a non-iodized salt, some table salt, or you can take salt tablets.
That's it.
Yeah. And then you could go the old standard peanut butter and honey rice cakes, or peanut butter with some chicken and some rice. But yeah, it's all pseudo science.
Peanut butter with chicken and rice is so good.
Yeah.
Add a banana to it. Slice a banana. Oh man, trust me. Slice a banana, mix it with the rice and chicken and peanut butter.
I've heard people have pineapple.
Yeah, pineapple is awesome. But try banana, man. I promise, game shot with a little bit of cinnamon on top too. Oh.
All right. Well, maybe off season, or it could be a carb up day. We'll see how we go. But I got a confession. I have used vodka before on 2 clients. And it's only because they were first timers and they actually asked for it. They're like, the day before, they're like, can we have some vodka? It's just going to calm our nerves. It's just going to make us feel a little bit better. It's just going to relax us because we're just so wound up. I was like, yeah, just do it. Just do it. It's not going to have a negative effect. If you know it's going to have a positive effect from calming your nerves, and I'm all for it.
Oh, for sure.
And it was like a little shot.
If you're having a little bit, but like, no, if you're sitting there thinking that half a bottle is going to do you a good job.
So, and then the other thing with that is as well, the trade-off, like you said, if you are highly strung out and you know that having a little bit of that is just going to relax you, then I would argue that the positive to that would be, like you're saying, that perhaps cortisol levels are lowered, and so perhaps, it could see some fluid clear out by just purely relaxing.
Oh.
Versus, for me, sitting on the couch with my feet up and watching a movie would be relaxing, but if you need to have a shot, for sure. But it's typically not going to be a standardized practice that you'd employ. But on that type of occasion, if it is that person, then it's not going to ruin your whole physique. But if you're like before you go on stage and you're taking a few shots, and you just end up looking absolutely plastered on stage.
Like show day, whatever you can do to relax someone and for them to chill out, I'm all for it. And that's exactly what you should be doing. You should be relaxing as much as you possibly can and just following the plan and executing and not worrying about anyone else but yourself, to be honest. So, yeah.
And from a physiological perspective, if you are like waking up and you're pacing and you're super wild up and you're activating those sympathetic drivers, you're releasing, adrenaline. That is going to burn through some of that carbohydrate that you've spent all this time this week relaxing and pushing in. The best approach is literally, and everyone's going to laugh when I say this, I've never thought I'd actually mention it out loud, but I remember for my 2020 show, I don't know what it is, Christmas carol music like relaxes me. It's a true story. On the way to the venue, I was starting to get like a little bit nervous and started thinking, fuck, what happens if I go there? I've done all this. I don't win, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, no. So there's a Christmas podcast playlist that my wife and my kids and I that we have like the night before. So I'm literally listening to that in the start of December on my way to the venue, and it just like instantly calmed me down. And then I was just listening to relaxing music when I got there. So I'm not saying you're listening to Christmas carols, but some form of just relaxing music that allows you to just be at peace and to relax is definitely going to be advantageous. Earphones in, feet elevated.
So I'm going to guess that your favorite carol is Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You.
It's actually not, but that song is on that playlist.
Can I paint a picture for everyone, right? You got this freaking fully fucking jacked physique pro, Scotty Morrell, done, hair's done, looking fucking insane, walking around, he's got headphones on, he's got this serious fucking look on his face. And if you only knew in the headphones, it was dancing through the snow.
But the funny thing is, the car that I rented, it was this tiny little Suzuki. So I'm in this tiny little car, and I've just got some Christmas carols pumping. But you know what? I got there, and it was like just a wave of I was so relaxed. And then that 30-minute window where I was feeling a bit stressy was gone, and then I just got back to relaxing. And it's pretty normal. Most people will have a moment on the day where you start to almost get a bit clammy, a bit stressy because you've invested so much into this process. And so firstly, it's really normal. And secondly, the best thing that you can do is to just stay composed and just relax, because a relaxed physique is a physique that you can peak optimally.
Yeah, I love it. One more thing that someone asked about, food related things for peak week is diuretics. Diuretics in peak week. Thoughts on it? Do we use them? Do we not use them?
Well, you fucking shouldn't be if you're competing.
Shouldn't we fucking use it?
No. Well, not there's natural diuretics that you could potentially use, but no, not pharmaceutical grade diuretics.
But I just think the best thing is, like Scott said it best weeks and weeks ago. I mean, he's probably said 100 times. You can't outsmart the body.
Yeah.
Like, stop trying to outsmart the body.
Yeah.
If you do, like, even if it's a natural diuretic, and even people like, having asparagus because it just helps you clear out water, it's...
Tell us the bro science, why they're doing it and what actually happens, Scotty. Like, tell us, give us a reason why and tell us why it doesn't.
It's trying to change that intracellular to extracellular ratio in terms of where we have fluid. And obviously we keep fluid inside a muscle belly, but as we've said, if your body senses that there is less water based on, think of the total amount of water within your body, so that all of the water that you have, and if that ratio is not even across intracellular, extracellular, your body, your kidneys will correct that. So your adrenal glands, the medulla inside the adrenal glands will release a hormone called aldosterone. And so basically that's there. It's a hormone that's secreted and basically it makes you reabsorb water. So if you are excreting more, then essentially it will take water from an area where it has it, and it will put it in an area where it needs it. Now, we know that we store water in muscle tissue, so as long as we still have some water in there, which of course we do, then it will just stick it in that extracellular layer, and all you'll end up doing is reducing the ratio. And so you have less water where you originally had it, and then now you've put water where you didn't want to have it. And essentially your muscle bellies will look less full, they won't be striated, and you'll actually find it really, really hard to get a pump. Yeah. And if you're fucking around with hard diuretics, you can end up just being hyperkalemic. So when you start changing potassium ratios, and then you basically have such an everyone would have had a cramp at some point. So a muscular cramp is an involuntary muscular contraction based on an imbalance between sodium and potassium. And so if that sodium and potassium balance isn't where it should be, then those muscles can contract without you intentionally wanting to do so. So you have no control over those actin myosin filaments, and you essentially, like, you might be going to hit a front quad, and then your quad is so engaged that you can't uncramp it, and then you try and stretch your quad. But as a result of that, when you flex the knee to stretch the quad, you're also flexing the hamstring. So you cramp both sides, and then at the end of the day, you're so fucked, you have to go to hospital, and you can, not to mention, you can die. So the only way to attenuate that is you've got to go and get on an IV and try and get your fluid balance back to 101. But if you've done the work and you've got yourself shredded, this is the thing: you don't need any of those additives or any of those extras, those exogenous aids, to try and improve your physique. Train hard, diet smart, get super shredded by just embracing the suck and dieting hard, like he has, and like we all have to do when we want to get super lean. And that is how you look like a freak of nature on stage. Not trying to diet for 12 weeks and then think you can suck down by fucking around with water by taking diuretics. It doesn't work.
Yeah, so essentially, if you take diuretics, you're going to be peeing more. It's going to drag water out of your muscle. You're going to look flat. You're going to look crappy. You're not going to look full. You can't get a pump. Or the fact is, you don't need to take a diuretic. You need to get lean and in condition for your division. And if for whatever reason you are watery, let's just call it not body fat. Let's just say it's watery. It's because you've probably done one of these things, or cut water, or increase sodium, or whatever you've done to actually make yourself watery. So no extremes here, kids. Just get lean and get ready, and just make sure everything else is in balance, because the body will figure it out, and it'll try to correct itself. And sometimes it does corrections that you don't want it to do, and it's going to make you look worse.
So just to confirm, whitefish doesn't dry out the skin?
Nah, it thins it out though, man.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, man.
And we're still injecting sodium on show day, right?
100%. Now vodka.
Yeah, we're injecting it orally.
We're double dosing with vodka now.
And vodka.
You know what you should, man? You should bring a little, get one of those. I've got one of the kids what we give in panel with, the little syringes. And what we'll do is we'll get some Gatorade. Right before you're about to go on, I'll just put some underneath your gums there, about 5 grams of carbohydrate. And if anyone asks what we're doing, we'll just say we're just injecting a little bit of glucose.
Injecting glucose. Hey, that's actually a good idea, because how many girls go sip some water and then it comes out of their mouth, it runs down the front of their tan and stuffs it up. I reckon I'm going to bring a syringe and just start injecting it into the bikini athletes' mouths.
That or a straw would usually suffice.
No, injecting is better.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
Can we get a Prep Coach podcast jumper made with Scott in a Sounder outfit?
Just inject it
with the syringe in his hand.
With Scott in a Sounder outfit, holding a syringe and a bottle that says sodium on it. Can we make that our new logo?
And the most natural bodybuilder you've ever seen using the words injection.
Yeah, that's it.
And me in the background drinking vodka, and MG in the background with his sweet chili sauce.
There you go. We've got a deal. That's
done. Next one is a little bit of a controversial topic, and I think it spawned off the Ballarat show, to be honest. Why is bikini judging inconsistent, and taking to social media to slam judging results? So I'm guessing it's Ballarat, only because I've just had people at the show and also people afterwards asking me what I thought of the result. And then I've seen some posts of some comparisons and people putting things side by side. So I'm assuming this is coming off the back of that. Now, I'm going to say a couple of things. One is, and we spoke about this, boys, is the caliber at certain shows is always different. So the caliber at a regional show is going to be different to the caliber at a big state show. So the overall winners that they pick there and the look they go for there, they're going for the best look on the day for what athletes are there on stage. Now, when you go to a big state show, there's going to be different athletes of a different caliber. And you'll be surprised that that overall winner or those people that do well at a certain show may not do well at another show. So I know, and I'll be open to my athletes. I have an athlete that did sports at a regional show, and I said, don't do it at a state show because it's going to be a different caliber athlete and you're probably not going to place. And then I also had people that did a regional show, did very, very well, and we left their season there because we knew that some of the weaknesses that they had would probably really show on stage against the caliber of athletes that will be at a state show. So we decided to, let's leave it there. We're happy with the results that we got. We have this success that we have, and let's start to put work in the off season to build those weak points so that when we do hit a big state show or a national show, we're ready to take some of the top spots. So I think people need to understand of maybe it's not judging inconsistency. Maybe it's more about competitor inconsistency across shows. And also too is I saw photos of comparisons and I was there on the day and the athletes look different than what photos will show. And I know also when they're making comparisons against a couple of athletes from different shows, from different titles, the photos don't give those athletes justice. And the way you zoom in and you put photos together can also make a difference too. You can make someone look better or worse depending on how much you zoom in and the proportions you make them. So just really be careful and only take what you see on social media with a grain of salt. And unless you were actually there and you know the caliber of the athletes that were on stage and you kind of understand shows and what to expect at different shows, then it's really hard to be harsh on the judging. And also in the end, we're going to compete and we just need to accept that we're going to be judged. There's going to be judges. There's going to be a decision made. We sometimes may not agree with it, but that's what we're there for. That's what we're doing. We're putting ourselves in that position to be judged and to be placed. So sometimes we just need to accept it. And I accept it. Even when I think maybe sometimes my athletes should have done better, I never complain. It's like, okay, that's what it is. I wonder why they pick that other person over that person. And I know everyone has strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's the best thing is once you start to identify the reasons why you may not have placed the way you placed and not be begrudged by it and actually be analytical by it and think, okay, well, they must have picked that person because they had better conditioning or more development or better shape. Now I know what I need to work on in the off season. So take it as a positive experience and as feedback and just be careful that, you do know the difference between shows and also, the difference between the caliber of people that are going to be at certain shows and don't take photos on face value and try to judge things by eye when you're actually there.
Yeah. And I think all the winners of each shows were well and truly worthy to be winners, no doubt about it. But I think what a lot of people are doing is like, if you look at the comparisons of winners of regional shows, I actually think the consistency is pretty freaking perfect, right? They've said this is the look at this show and this is what we've gone for. So no issues there. I think what people are doing is, if you're comparing the winner of A and B or the winner of NBA to the winner of a regional show potentially, that, maybe the comparison isn't exactly the same, but they're different federations and they look for different things. But I would say, if you look at potentially what may be at the top in each division at the states this weekend, you're probably going to see a competitor caliber that, you have in your mind, if you're one of these people who are complaining, which I think, you don't need to be, that the comparison's probably going to be a little closer this weekend. But that's the whole point of having these regional shows. It gives people more opportunity to compete who are potentially a little bit further away. And when you are a federation that has multiple shows per season, which ICN has, you're always going to have a different caliber of athletes at different shows. And that's why there is a big state championship, which we have this weekend. So I think you'll see that, things will be a little bit different this weekend. But I think the judges have to judge what's in front of them. And I think for the most part, just based on what I've seen across all feds this season, that everything's been pretty much where it needs to be.
What do you think, Scotty? Any thoughts?
No, I agree. I mean, I can't really speak for Ballarat or Bendigo because obviously I wasn't there. But everything you guys have said, I agree with.
Yeah, another question that we got that kind of relates to this is how important is posing? Does it influence the judging? And it does. It does play a role. It does play a component. Your stage presence and your posing. And I know that being there at shows and seeing people that have an amazing physique but can't pose it, they won't place well. So when you look at a photo and someone puts up a photo of someone in a pose and then puts a comparison saying this person looked better than that person. Sometimes on the day there's things that happen live, and when that person's posing and moving, that maybe they didn't hit the shot exactly where it needed to be hit, or they didn't angle in on the judges because they were on the end, or whatever that may be. So posing definitely plays a role too, and that's only something that you're ever going to see through a video or through being there in person. So definitely practice your posing. Definitely make sure that you're confident in your posing and you have the best stage presence that you can possibly present on the day.
Yeah, and remember the judges are judging everything that's happening in front of them. I can easily, I'll use one of my athletes at Ballarat on the weekend who, was placing really well, but in one division, turned the wrong way a couple of times and just got a bit lost and ended up with a second. Now, you could put a photo of her in her best pose backstage when she had 3 minutes to prepare for that pose on Instagram and say, why didn't she do better? But you don't know that she turned the wrong way 3 times and got lost in the routine. And the judges see all of that. So there's so many things that, don't get mentioned online. And I think sometimes we just need to understand it's a very, very tough job to do and sit there and analyze 14 or 15 physiques in one go.
Yeah, definitely. On a little bit of a different topic, what's your biggest pet peeve with a client? I know mine is.
I'd like to know Scott's because I'm his client, so I want to know what his pet peeve is.
Oh, yeah, you're one of his clients. Yeah. What's Go, Scotty.
It's like, I hate guys that just.
Honest, I'm pretty lucky. I don't have that many people that really complain all that much. If I'm honest, one of them is probably when. So I have all my athletes have their own specific set check-in day. And so the check-in needs to be completed. I need to receive my photos by 9 a.m. of that day so that I can get back to who I need to get back to. If they're in prep, typically, if I can, they'll get their check-in later that day. But one of my biggest pet peeves is if I'm having to chase people down to complete their check-in. Like, you're paying me for a service. And there's a lot of coaches out there who just wouldn't give a fuck, but I'm working with people, I cap my list of people that I work with. And so if I'm working with someone, it's really important that obviously that we're both in this process together. So if I feel like I'm investing all of my time and then you can't just simply complete your check-in by something that we've made an agreement on by a specific time, then that really shits me, because I never, ever, ever, touch wood, I don't think I've ever missed anyone's check-in by a certain time or day. Even when I've had children, like the day that my wife's been in labour, I've still made sure my check-ins go in, albeit maybe later that night. But yeah, that's probably the biggest one for me. I think just people who just aren't punctual in that sense.
Yeah, I understand that too, and the same. I don't think I've ever missed someone's check-in. I've had Saturday and Sunday shows, and Monday rolls around and I've got check-in day and I'm on it straight away. But as long as some people just need a reminder, and I normally will, I'll see who's checked in and who hasn't, and just pump out a reminder to the ones that haven't, and they won't slow me down, because by the time they get that message, they do their check-in, I'm probably ready to look at theirs because I've gone through all the other ones that have already done theirs. So as long as they don't slow it down, and if someone does not get it done and miss it out, I just tell them, I said, you've missed the check-in window. Do a double check-in for next week, and I'll look at both weeks for you. So I'll always make sure I give them feedback on everything they've ever done, but sometimes it just won't be on the week they should have done it. But for me, biggest pet peeve would have to be clients not having self-confidence and belief in themselves, to be honest. Not a lot of time, but there's some clients out there that I need to reassure them that they're really good at what they do and they have a lot of potential. And normally that's proof when they actually get the result and they can see what happens on stage. But yeah, I think that's some people need to have confidence in themselves and self-belief, not in an arrogant way, but just be confident in what they're doing and just believe in themselves and believe that they can get it done. They can achieve the goals that they want to achieve. So I reckon that'll be one of the biggest ones for me, for sure. What do you think, MG?
Yeah, probably the only thing is like, and this is probably every coach ever, it's maybe just like lack of adherence. Like, so, sit down and have a chat with someone who, has every intention to, achieve a goal. You set the plan out, but just aren't willing to, hit all the markers, sleep, get all their training sessions in, these types of things, but expecting, 100% of the results from 60% of the effort.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we've all been there, no doubt, and we go through phases, but I suppose the main thing is, we've been around and done it for a while, and we know that, typically when you're able to put this much in, that you're going to get at least this as a result. So probably, the biggest pet peeve would just be lack of adherence.
And also, just we're going to talk about check-ins in a second, but because there was a question about it, which really is good. It's a good segue. But if someone's not adherent, one of my pet peeves is a client saying, "Oh, I had a really bad week last week. I'm going to skip the check-in." I was like, "No, that's the most important time to check in, when you've had one of your shittest weeks, because that's when a coach can really help you navigate that situation, understand the reasons why." Even when a client tells when they've had a good week and they're just like in the check-in, good, everything's good. I was like, still give me more than that. I want to know a little bit more than that. Even if everything was good, tell me why it was good. So, if you're not being adherent, make sure that you aren't scared of telling your coach. That's the kind of relationship you should have. You should be able to tell your coach everything, because they want to help you. They're not a dictator. They shouldn't be a dictator, and they shouldn't be telling you off. They should be understanding your situation so they can coach you through it, right? And they can help you be more adherent and get the best out of you every single week. And one of the questions that was asked is, how often do you check in with your clients, and what kind of information do you cover? So, majority is a weekly check-in. If it's like peak week or something like that, it could be more daily or multiple times a day. But majority of the time, it's a weekly check-in. There are some people that are in the off season that may drop to a fortnightly check-in or even a monthly, but it's pretty rare. Most people are weekly. How about you guys? What frequency are you at for most clients?
Yeah, same, man. Weekly for most, as far as fortnightly for some, depending on the goal. But even like with weekly, there's some differences in clients. So like, I don't ask all clients for photos every single week because, some are going through off season. That's just not necessary. Obviously with prep, pretty much the same as you guys, contact every week, photos every week. And sometimes updates to plan more regular than once a week, as we know as shows get closer and stuff. So.
Yeah. How about you, Scotty?
Yeah, same, man. Once a week. There's a couple of people that I work with that it's more on an educational upskilling based program, like other coaches, and that's fortnightly, but that's not so much a check-in. That's more actually just having a Zoom. But for all my athletes, yeah, it's always weekly. And then as we said in peak week, it's pretty much daily.
How about the type of data and information that you kind of gather off a client in your check-ins? What's kind of just the base stuff that you would normally want to see?
So there's two elements to mine. There's the quantitative data and the qualitative data. So quantitative wise, they'll have their nutritional periodization. So we'll lay out their week. So if their checking day is a Wednesday and their week is a Thursday to a Wednesday, when they're training, the specific training day in terms of food. So if it's a low day, a normal day, a high day, the macronutrient recommendations, micronutrient recommendations, fiber. And then obviously on top of that, they'll have what their scale weight was as soon as they wake up, fasted, sleep, so how long they slept for, session / training performance. So if they trained, how their session was, they'll rate it, give feedback on it. Hunger signaling, which is more so prevalent in the dieting condition, but also in the recovery phase. So that because obviously hunger signaling gets skewed, so that gives us an idea of where they're at. Bowel movement, whether they're on their period, so if they've had a cycle, when they're ovulating, because that obviously all those things correlate with different changes in scale weight data. So any bits of information on that front, and then there'll be a check-in questionnaire that has qualitative pieces on how training went, how nutrition adherence was, whether they deviated, how was digestion, how was recovery, what are you proud of, what do you think you could do better. So that's the sort of stuff.
How about you, MG? What kind of things do you gather
Man, exactly the same. Virtually everything's exactly the same. The only thing that my tracker has in it is for those that are inflexible dieting. I ask that they copy their daily totals from MyFitnessPal into the tracker, just so I can, potentially pick up any discrepancies, or if, a macronutrient was well over on one day or under on the other day, it can spark a discussion as to why and things like that. But everything else is exactly the same.
Yeah. Mine, same as Scotty, pretty much. Mine's, it has some open-ended questions that cover training, nutrition, the way you're feeling, your mental, your physical health, stress, sleep, and it's more of a dear diary, where they need to type, give me a little bit of information about how the week went, covering all those topics, and the questions are very targeted and kind of prompt what I want to hear from you in that dear diary commentary. And then some of them is just hard data. So yeah, body weight, steps, sleep, and adherence on a daily basis, or filled out for every single day. And that's pretty much it. And then they get I do a voice recorded response back to everyone, and then give them adjustments and feedback and things like that every single week. So that's kind of how I operate.
Yep.
On that, one of the data points is steps. And someone asked, what's the best way to track your steps accurately? Can you use your iPhone, or is it best to use a Fitbit or a watch?
Yeah, I definitely prefer a watch. Phones just don't pick it all up. A couple of things, you got to have it on you 24/7 for it to count. So that's annoying. Yeah. So like you literally, I want to go from here to my kitchen. Well, it's 9 steps. I'm going to do it 10 times, but if I don't pick the phone up all 10 times, it's not going to count. So I'll just say, like even me, I've got an Apple phone and I've actually got an Apple Watch, but I actually just use this Fitbit. It's like less than $100, I think, and perfectly tracks steps. So I definitely would prefer a watch.
Yeah, I agree. Scotty, agree?
Yeah, I agree. I don't really track my steps in the off season, but when I'm in prep, like what you said, I'll wear a watch.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go to a training question. It's going to be for you, MG, because I know you utilize this. What is DUP training?
Where did this come to the podcast questionnaire?
I'm not sure where it came through. It was obviously anonymous. It's either come through mine directly or come through the podcast. So,
yeah, DUP stands for Daily Undulating Periodization, and simply what it is, it's just this training style where, and someone asked us last week, what is the best rep range to grow muscle? And I think Scotty said anything from 6 to 30. So all DUP is a training style where you basically have mixed volume days where you're hitting all these rep ranges, all right? So you might have, let's just say, push-pull legs 1, push-pull legs 2, and you might rotate those on a so you're doing 5 days a week, and the next week you're starting with day 6, and you might have heavy day push, volume day legs, heavy day pull, and then the next 3 you rotate those. So you might work 6 to 12 reps on one day, and then the exact same exercises on the next day you might work them 15 to 30. So you're just hitting all the different schemes, making sure that you're getting different amounts of volume through the muscle. But I suppose the key component to that is that regardless whether it's your heavy day or your high rep day, you're still trying to overload volume on both. So nothing changes about the style of training other than you're just using different loads and different rep ranges.
And would you use different exercises for the different rep ranges? Like,
so the way I do it is like, I've got 2 days of each. So 2 push days, 2 pull days, 2 leg days, or I might have some entire body days as well. And I'm going to use different movement patterns. So I might have a wide grip pull down on my heavy day, but I might have a close grip on my volume day, right? And then I'll rotate those. So the next time I do each of those, it'll be heavy for close grip and volume for wide grip. So yeah, absolutely, there's different mixes of exercises.
Now, do you use squats and deadlifts for your bikini athletes because it'll make their waist thicker, or do you avoid those?
Oh man, you can't do any of those exercises. That's a no-go. That's a joke, guys.
We're going to cover that question next episode because I want to get into that, and I know we're short on time. But I'm throwing that in preempting next episode.
Yeah. I'll give you
too, man. All those peanuts that think that deadlifts make your waist super thick and they're really bad.
Yeah. Don't give away the answers, Scotty. We've got to talk about it next time, all right?
I'll just give you a little.
You're rolled up before we even.
I know Scotty's already pumped up for it. He's like, I can't wait for the next episode. I can't wait.
He wants to get into it now. But just a bit of a guide, right, to give you a bit more information on that. The rep ranges are going to be different for different exercises. So, for example, on my heavy day, my squats might be 6 to 10, right? My barbell back squats might be 6 to 10. My leg extensions on my heavy day are still 12 to 15. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing 6 reps of leg extensions.
Yeah.
But on my volume day, my 6 to 10 squats will become 15. I'm never going to work above that. But my leg extensions are going to go as high as 30.
Yeah, got you.
The reps aren't the same on all exercises.
Are you doing the same sets roughly?
Yeah.
So rep ranges are changing, but sets are kind of staying the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And similar exercise selection too.
Yeah.
Just
different rep schemes. Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Actually, the other thing that I find, man, with that is it definitely takes away the need for a deload as well. Like as often, it's just not the same stress. When you're doing, lighter days for heavier volume, I find that my athletes just don't need as many deloads as they would on, potentially a typical training split or training style.
Yeah. Actually, Scotty, you want to talk on DUP at all, or you reckon we covered it?
Covered it well.
Perfect. Another question about training that someone asked was, as a coach, how do you judge someone's intensity when they train? What's the best way to judge it?
Color of their face, man. It's for me, it's really about like how close to what I would perceive as genuine failure that they're going and how many reps that they're leaving in the tank.
Yeah, I think sometimes testing people to, and as we always do whenever we see someone face to face, is we put the weight on that they've used in their program for the 8 reps, whatever it may be, and then say, all right, let's do that. And then when they get to 8, go, do another one. Do another one, do another one, give me one more, and they get to like 12. Like, well, okay, so we know that you're not training super intense, and that's the kind of intensity we need out of you from now on. So sometimes it's about giving someone a benchmark to show what you're expecting of them too.
Yeah, I actually use a tool that I got off Michael Trimboli maybe a decade ago when we were actually just doing some playing around on some powerlifting stuff. And you used to incorporate, so everyone, you may know of just utilizing what you used to call the Joker set, right?
Yeah.
Like you throw in this set, it's like same weight, but just go until you can't do any more. Right? You're not going to use it all the time, but you might have 4x12 at 50. You give them this Joker set and they get 19. And it's like, man, how did you get 7 extra reps? You've been leaving way too much in the tank. So
there's some techniques you can use where you utilize an AMRAP as many reps as possible to show people what they could have potentially done for all their sets. Yeah. How about you, Scotty? Because you train a lot of face-to-face too. So
I do, and I'll typically employ, even on weekly, there will be at least one compound that will have an AMRAP more so on the very, very last set, so that we know that they're going to as close proximity as failure as they can. And for 2 reasons, obviously, because we know that that's one of the pieces to the puzzle that we need in order to elicit hypertrophy, but also because it gives you some reference in terms of, as you just said, if you're hitting that weight for 12 and then you get 20 on your final set, then obviously you're not going to be able to get 20 on every set, because the neural fatigue and your ability to regenerate ATP to do that again in 3 minutes when you have a rest isn't going to be there. Yeah. But perhaps it means that you probably could have got sets of 15 across 3 sets and then not done that last one to 20, or perhaps you could have gone heavier by an extra 5 or 10 kilos. So I think periodizing in phases of testing, typically everyone will have the same, in my opinion, you should have some staples that I feel like too many people change exercises around because it's like you got to keep the body guessing and whatnot. In terms of how you get bigger, get really, really strong at a specific exercise, and then when you think that you've capped it out, try and push it again until you get to the point where you feel like you've hit the ceiling. Then maybe you need to, sub it out, put it on the sidelines for 2 or 3 blocks, and then maybe perhaps bring it back. But I think having those staples, so let's say that it's a dominant hip hinge, a squat variation, a press, a pull down, a row, and then perform a rep max test, or there's no point doing a 1 rep max test and then trying to target your 8 RM from there. test and see where your 8 to 12 RMs lie on those major pieces. And then they're your reference points. And then that's perhaps where you can target. If you know that you can hit 400 kilos for 12 on a leg press, and that's for one set, and by the end, that's like you absolutely capped, then perhaps when you go in, you're going to program 3 sets of 12 at, say, 360 or 350, and then you can build from there because you know where your upper limit is. And then in 12 to 16 weeks, you retest that. And obviously, if that number's gone up, which, you know, theoretically it should be if you're doing your job and they're training hard enough, then you know that there's more contractile tissue there. But as well as that, obviously, skill acquisition has improved, gotten better at the movement. But testing is definitely advantageous, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And let's leave it on one last question before we finish off. Is it, or in each of your teams, are there any competitors you think have a bright future in competing? So I'll put it this way, is the people that I think have a bright future has nothing to do with their current physique and their genetics. It has to do with their mindset, their consistency, and their adherence. Because I have people that I know that genetically they have the gift, but they don't put in the work as much as someone else. And they don't have the consistency and the adherence, and they will get overtaken. So it has nothing to do with what someone looks like or their genetic potential or the fact that maybe their physique is way more developed than someone else. It has to do with that the other person's mindset and their adherence, their consistency, and their willingness to work and outwork anyone that comes in front of them. So yes, there is some people that in the team that have a very, very bright future for those reasons, and some of them have both. Some of them have the genetics and the shape, and they have the mindset, and that's the ultimate athlete. How about you boys?
Right, yeah, absolutely nailed it. I think like all of us have seen over the years, someone who has great genetics not work as hard as someone and still have a lot of success. And then someone who potentially does everything and doesn't get that success. And I think as coaches that, you know, for that second athlete, like I tend to feel that one a little bit deeper. Because, you know, you want to see people who give their all do well, right? It's human nature. It's like,
they'll eventually overtake that other person because the other person will just give up. They won't do well. They'll be inconsistent. And that other person will keep grinding and grinding and grinding and overtake them. And it happens.
Yeah. And if you feel like you are that person, listening to this should give you that little bit of extra motivation to just keep going, keep pushing.
Scotty?
Yeah, I agree. I was literally going to say, and then you said it, the mentality, I was going to say it's what's between your ears and your outlook and how you approach it. It's just consistency over time.
Yeah. So anyone out there that thinks that they look at themselves in the mirror and think they don't have it, if you've got it upstairs in the head, that's all that's going to matter, and that's what's going to make you overtake everyone else and be a success. So don't worry about where you're at now. Let's worry about the drive that you have and where you want to be in the future, for sure.
Yeah, and we've seen like a ton of like, you know, what like transformation I really, really love, man, is like, and like she's an amazing athlete. I love Bridget's start to like pro.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, look at that as like you would look at Bridget and go, man, she's been a genetic freak her whole life, right?
No way.
But you look at her first show and how hard she's obviously worked, and you say, you know what? She hasn't been a genetic freak. She's busted her ass, and that she's got like a really good collage of like her first show all the way through, and that right there is proof in the pudding, man. That if you're willing to work, you can go far. Yeah,
so Bridget started competing and really training in her 30s, and she's a mum, and her transformation is crazy. It took her maybe 4, 5, or even 6 years to become 2-time pro in sports and fitness in ICN, and then becoming she actually won the nationals or the worlds, whatever you want to call it, in sports. So she got that big shield and all that kind of stuff. So and she works real hard. And and Candace is another one. You know, last year she went 4 times pro across 4 federations, which is unheard of. A mum of 3 kids, and she absolutely works her ass off. Absolutely her ass off.
And the thing is, with both of these girls, and like anyone that's a pro, once upon a time, if you're watching this, you're just starting out or you're new to the game, they were in the exact same position as where you are now. everyone that has achieved greatness was once a beginner and was once learning their craft, but they didn't just wake up and then have all of those titles and accolades.
Yeah.
They just got to work and then did it again and again. And sometimes when you're done working hard, you just need to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, listeners, go have a look at my IG, not a plug, but go have a look at my IG. There's some before and afters of Candace, Bridget, and some other people in the team that have gone from ordinary to extraordinary, and it can be done 100%. And it was all about their mindset and their work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to look for an old school Scotty Morrell, like first comp Scotty Morrell pick. You got any other?
Not on my person, but someone showed me a video came up from back when I used to play footy, and I think I would have been like maybe 83, 85 kilos versus, there's a big change in terms of and the physique, but it's one of those things. I didn't really start properly bodybuilding until I was like 29, 28.
Oh,
yeah.
All picture of Scotty.
Probably would have blown away with the win there.
That was at an A&B show, mate. Look at that.
Yeah.
Who was in that? I don't even know who that.
Under 25 bikini winner, Lara.
Right, fellas.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there. But super pumped for the weekend. Again, thank you for everyone that put in some questions. Excited to see you all there. Please don't be shy. Please come and say hello to us. We want to have a chat with you. We want to get to know you. And yeah, we're going to be super excited. We're obviously going to be there pretty much all day. So if you see us running around, definitely come and say hello.
Get down at 10 o'clock to support MT and make sure you're loud in the crowd.
Yeah, and guys, when you see Scotty, make sure you sing him a Christmas carol, please.
Yes.
Please, that'll make my day.
All righty, boys.
All right, boys.
Take care,
Have a
guys.
good one.
Legends. See you on the weekend.